Hi, everybody. It's a happy Sunday. Today we're going to be talking about the housing market and all the headlines that have happened this week. We'll be touching a little bit on Zillow, not too much, but we do have a special guest. But before we get to our special guest and talking about the real estate market, there's one thing I would like to clear up. I received I'll just say a passionate letter from an email from a subscriber that believes that I would be monitoring or editing out comments that I didn't like, or that he felt that I was like trying to erase comments that was talking negative of me. And he passionately wrote out this email that was long, and he said that it was unfair that I would, after that someone has taken a time to write out a very long comment, that I would erase it. Here's the thing. I do not erase any comments that go on to my any of my videos. I do not have time to erase a bunch of comments that churn up on my videos. I will erase spam content, like anything that has to do with, like, oh, buy our blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, no, no. I will erase that. And then YouTube itself will monitors the comment section. So if there's certain words that YouTube has decided are not words that they want on their platform, they will remove that content itself. So I do not have time to remove comments. You can write whatever you want in my comment section. I actually have gotten plenty of laughs on people making fun of my appearance, and I actually post those funny comments on my Facebook page. I find them highly entertaining. So I don't have time to do that. So I just want you guys to know that if your comment does disappear, it's not from me, it's YouTube. YouTube monitors their platform. It belongs to them. And if they don't like what you have to say, they will remove it. I don't have time to do that. So that was that. I know that we have a lot of people here, and I do have a very special guest. I'm going to tell you, this is the first time in this show that I've ever had a real estate agent from Indiana. How about that? We have a special guest. It's Brandon, Landon Bushing, but I was going to say Brandon, and I was like, no, it's Landon Bushing. And he is going to be talking to us today about an article that I came across. And we're going to read this article today. And then as we're talking, please put in your real estate questions that you have. Landon and I are going to be going over those questions. But first, Landon, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I've been called worse things in my life than Brandon Landon. It's actually, I've got an older sister named Lindsay and a younger brother named Logan. So LLLL. So
all right,
we're used to it. It's okay. Maybe I should have been named Brandon to break up the L's.
Yep.
Yeah, no, thanks for the invite. I was really excited about this. I'm glad we're connected. I mean, EXP is what connected us, so it's a really great company. I'm excited to be a part of it. I am here in Indiana. I'm based out of Indianapolis, but I service the entire state. My parents are from Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is a little town northeast Indiana. Shout out to them. Love you, Mom. So, no, I'm excited. Thank you. I appreciate you having me online here.
No problem. No problem. Hi, Mom. Everybody say hi to Landon's mom in the comment section. Make sure you wave hi to her. What's your mom's name?
Her name's Sandy. I'm a mama's boy, 100%.
My mom's name is Sandy. So everybody say hi, Mom, and hi, Sandy in the comment section to make Landon's mom proud. All right, let's talk about this article that we came up with today. Eddie's going to be pulling that up. Eddie is the aficionado producer in the background, also my hot husband. We'll just leave it at that. With rising inflation and hot housing market, here's what you need to know about buying a home right now. So let's go ahead and scroll on down. All right, here we go. High prices are almost everywhere. Americans are paying more these days for products like food and gasoline thanks to rising inflation. Of course, this rising inflation will also impact the cost of buying a new home. With inflation rising so aggressively and the fact that people's salaries and weekly income are not rising at the same rate, we end up with less discretionary money to spend on each month. Manager economist of research of realtor.com. At the same time, home prices have also risen. The Customer Price Index, which measures the cost of goods and services, shows that shelter rose 0.5 in October. This takes into account, Eddie, you have the little thing over. I can't see the thing. There you go. It also takes into account rent and owner's equivalent rent, which is what owners would pay to rent their home. Separately, home prices were up 19.8 year over year, which they only predicted 13, but now it's 19.8% in August, according to the S&P CoreLogic Chase Shiller Indicates. Okay, scroll down inward.
That's a mouthful.
I know, I got it, Dylan.
You're awesome.
I usually can't read. All right. So what does it mean for home buyers? For one, you may have a lower budget. And not only will you have less money to spend every month since you are paying higher prices elsewhere, mortgage rates are also climbing. They're not really climbing that much. Buyers of median priced homes are spending $160 more a monthly mortgage than a year ago. That's actually quite a bit. A realtor.com analyst shows that aspects of those rates to continue to climb. Generally, we see inflation go higher and we're going to see mortgage rates go higher, he said. And inflation to hedge. And this is what I've been saying for the last 10 months. Real estate historically has been viewed as a hedge against inflation. Home values traditionally at least keep up with inflation. And when you have a mortgage, you lock in a fixed monthly payment for the length of the loan. Homes are expensive now, but for most people in comparison, most important is how that cost of homeownership is going to compare with the cost of renting, said Zillow senior economist Jeff Tucker. All right, I'm going to stop right here because I want to say this. This is why you see so many private equity firms buying up as many homes as possible. Yes, Zillow failed at their attempt to do this, but that was just a poor business decision. Zillow's not going anywhere. But all these other major corporations that are buying are making other little companies within their hedge funds to buy up real estate. It's 100% to hedge inflation. That's it. They've always done it. It's been done for eons. I'm like actually doing a video right now where I'm comparing the inflation costs that had happened during the 70s and what is happening now. The difference is that our interest rates for homes right now are not at like 20% like they were in the 70s. They're still ridiculously low. And that's why all these investors and hedge funds are trying to scoop up as many homes as they can while inflation continues to tick up. What do you have to say about this, Landon?
So, I agree with a lot of what that article said. We are seeing a lot of properties like that are the lower valued ones being bought up by hedge funds. We're seeing it here in Indianapolis. It's happening. Where it's not really being seen are like a higher price home. When I say higher price, something like 300,000 or higher, right? So a lot of lower price is exactly happening. What I've always been taught, and this is even before I went into real estate, I've been in real estate going on a year now. I was a teacher before this, public school teacher. Owning a home is kind of like forced savings, right? So everyone needs a place to go. And as you you buy a house at a certain price, you're locked in, like what you said earlier. Well, what you had described earlier is affordable housing is gone. So now you're paying your landlord's mortgage, right? Instead of being able to own something on your own. So I agree with a lot of what you had said at the beginning there, as far as hedge funds are buying all these up.
Right. Well, before we got on air, Landon and I were talking, and I said their biggest goal, and I will stand on this. I will stand on this ground until the day I die. Is that most of these most of these investors, the big ones, the big name ones that are scooping up all these affordable houses, is to increase the value of other homes that wouldn't be considered the starter home price.
Right.
It will increase those people's homes, right? The people that are already in a home, but the ones that it would be like the starter home, they're fixing up and putting out for rent so they can turn as many young people into a renter's nation as possible. And other countries do it. Other countries do it. It's not familiar. It's not unfamiliar.
I was going to give you a perfect example. I live in an area in Indianapolis called Prairieville. When I bought my home in 2015, I paid $180,000 for it. I know, and it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So it's definitely like your starter home if you want to use that, or first-time homeowner. Right now, I've done the comps of my house in this area. I paid 180. Now it's like almost 280 to 300,000 this past summer just for the same house, same property. And it's like, man, who has that kind of cash to buy a home right away when you're first coming out of college? I mean, when you come out of college, I don't know about you, but like when I came out of college, I had like $50,000, $60,000 worth of college debt. Add that plus trying to buy a home, plus you're not
Medical
making
costs.
good. Yeah, medical costs. Like heck, half the time when you're looking for a job, you don't care about like the pay. You're more like, what are the benefits? Where are the health insurance? What are this? Like you don't look at what the pay is. The pay is, you don't really negotiate that. I know as far as like a teacher's salary, you weren't even able to negotiate teacher's salary because the union already negotiates for you. So if you're a first-time teacher, you made this much. Second-year teacher, you made this. Da 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 da. And it's the housing costs are really high. I feel bad for first-time home buyers right now. Now, I will add there's a caveat to this. When my mom was looking to buy her house, and my dad as well, when they're both looking to buy a house back in the early 80s that you met in the 70s, I think my mom had mentioned that she had paid like 12% for her interest rate. She's like, man, we thought we were getting a deal because everything you said was 20. Man, we got 12. We were really excited. Now we sit here and argue about, man, 3.25. Yeah, like 3.25. I'm going to go to this lender. He's giving me 3.5. Like, yeah, the rates are low.
Yeah.
I did hear, and I don't know if this is true, if you can comment on this, that the rates are going to go up. Like, is it Janet Yellen right now who's in charge of the Federal Reserve? Is that her name?
Okay, so latest mortgage rate news: rates edge up again this week.
Okay.
Let's see. They've been saying this. Mortgage rates rose this week, continuing moving along anticipated economists. The average 30-year mortgage climbed to 3.24%, which is still ridiculously low.
Oh, yeah.
From 3.22% last week, according to Bankrate's weekly survey of large lenders. Mortgage experts say rates will continue to move up from the all-time bottom achieved in January 2021, a year ago. A year ago, a benchmark of 30-year fixed mortgage was 3.01%. 4 weeks ago, the rate was 3.24. The 30-year fixed rate average for this week is 0.1 percent point below the 52-week high of 3.34%. That was a lot of words. And a 0.31 percentage points higher than the 52-week low of 2.93%. And I do remember when it hit the 2.39%. Thank you, Construction Cronies, for the $10 super chat. Aren't Kristina's eyes just beautiful? Thank you. Sometimes I get made fun of about my eyes. The mortgage rates are going to continue to go up. But we're going to hit 20%, and I don't think in the next year.
Yeah,
and
I hope not.
And they said that they were going to raise, and I had somebody arguing with me in the comment section of my last live stream saying the Feds said that they weren't going to raise mortgage rates. I'm like, what are you talking about? So then I linked some articles that they have to. They can't just keep them that historically low and then have inflation go up as much as it has. It's just... they can't, and we need to, people need to make some money around here. As things go up, banks need to make more money. Sure. They can't keep printing it and then expect it to not like turn to dust and worth nothing if they don't add something to the inflation rate. So, yeah. Anyways, we have some questions that are coming in. Eddie's going to pull them up. TDF123EMC says, I suppose I'll ask the same question. Will house prices drop and interest rates increase, or will house prices drop and interest rates will stay low? What is your opinion, Landon?
Everything that I've seen for my lenders and everything forecast is that it's kind of going to be kind of where we're at right now. Now we're not
flattening.
Like a flattening, like a leveling out. They don't expect a big drop, a big decline, something like that. I don't know. Like, I mean, who can predict anything? We don't know what's going to happen.
If interest rates jump exponentially, then home prices, of course, will drop. But if they're just going to go up like a point from 0.23% to 0.34%, no one's going to make a stink about that. There's going to be a few people that run to the lender and try to get that save a little bit more, before it goes up to 3.5%. But in the meantime, the home prices have still gone up. Every time that they've said it's a cooling off, we see like a little tiny dip and then it pops right back up again. In our area,
Right.
we saw a little tiny dip and I was like, oh, here we go. We're going to start. This is where it's going to start. We're going to see more houses on the market. And then as soon as it went back down, it went right back up. Same thing happened in Austin, Texas. A bunch of my friends over there in
Yeah, the
Las
Austin is
Vegas.
growing. Yeah, Las
In
Vegas. Yeah.
Las Vegas, all those areas, they all of them did see a little thing, but I think people had like kind of buyers fatigue. I think that was a
Hmm.
real thing. There was buyers that were like, I'm gotten tired of getting outbid
Yeah.
over and over again. And now I am seeing a little bit more incentives from new home builders, which is encouraging to have some new home builders being able to get those houses built without supply chain issues. So we'll see
What
what
incentive?
happens.
What incentives are you seeing from your builders down south?
Like quicker closing times and that they
Hmm.
are offering like a little bit in closing costs, not
Okay.
anything. And then not nothing big. Years ago when we saw incentives from builders, they were offering like a whole package, upgrade package to
Yeah.
your home. And then they would say, oh, if you use our closing company, we'll give you 3,500 in closing costs. And then they would give a real estate bonus for getting it closed within, a certain month, which I think they can't do anymore. I think they made that illegal. This was in 2007. This isn't now.
Okay.
And then they would do another thing too. They would like extend out the home warranty, which is normally like a year and a half to like 3 years for bumper to bumper. So anything
Yeah.
that happened within the house within those 3 years, they would come out and fix anything. So that was good. That was good.
So
Oh,
are
look,
your
go
quick
ahead.
question, are your homes when you're being, because I have a client right now that's building a home. He's building a right around $1 million+ home right now, but they were told by their builders, it's a custom build, that
Uh-huh.
they were going to be at least 13 months out to build a home. Like, is
Yes.
that normal for you guys right now or
Yes.
longer? Okay.
Not only is it normal for just traditional custom home building, it's normal for even manufactured houses, like like
Yeah.
your what people would call a mobile home, but they're called there are manufactured homes.
Yep. Hmm.
Modular homes are 18 to 19 months out. There's a lot of investors that I've been working with that were wanting to just go ahead and just buy some modular homes and have a general contractor put them in, but they're
Yeah.
19 months out. If you go to some of these websites, that flat out says you can order it. It will be there, but you just know that there is a time delay from 19 to 24 months, and that's what you're signing a contract on. So yeah, that's across the board. That isn't just new home construction, but some builders had in our area, I don't know what they did, but they went ahead and bought everything in bulk. They bought so much stuff in bulk so they could put
Hmm.
up as many houses as possible to offset the supply chain issues. So once those supply chain issues had initially started, they got together, they bought a bunch of stuff. They're all housing it in a warehouse so they can get their homes built for
Yeah.
2022 year. So that was something encouraging. Pretty smart on the builders part.
Yeah, to buy in bulk. I've got a good friend that works for Simpson Strong Tie that does a lot of the home stuff, and
Hmm.
like he brought up a good point. He's like, who would have thought that during a pandemic, when truly everything was shut down, that home prices would have just skyrocketed? Like he was telling me how they were swamped with business. Like
Hmm.
I couldn't believe that.
I'm gonna do something. We're gonna totally go off the rails right here because I saw this come up. It says, "Can we see your studio room?" So
Oh,
this was
do it.
gonna, yeah, this is gonna make people laugh. Okay, if you only knew, this is my webcam. This is literally a lights right here. I have one light here. It's a little closet. I have these lights hanging on a. I'm showing you the behind the scenes, everybody.
Yeah.
These lights are hanging on a thing right here because I didn't want to hang them from the ceiling and cause more holes. I made this wall, and then this is it's just a little closet. That's it. That's the door to get in, and then there's some shelving right here, and then that's that's it. There's nothing really exciting about it.
The power behind the camera, right?
Yeah, you got a little sneak peek behind the scenes. Totally not about housing, but I thought I'd show you a little behind the scenes stuff. It's always a good to break things up a little bit.
So I used to. I went to school at Ball State. I don't know if you're familiar with Ball State.
Ball, Ball.
Ball State. Ball
Okay.
State. So
Ball
they have
State.
They have a very famous alumni that was in TCOM, telecommunications. Do you know who that is?
No.
David Letterman.
Oh, I know that guy.
So David Letterman went to Ball State. Yeah. So that's like a lot, like what you say, behind the scenes, like you see the scenery looks great and everything else, but then you see everything else like, oh, wow, is that really what a TV studio looks like? Yeah,
Yes.
that's what a TV studio with tape lines and duct tape and things like that.
It looks dirty too.
Yeah. Oh, the floors are super dirty.
Yeah. JR says, I need help badly. Oh, my eldest daughter's rent went up $500 a month. And that is one of those things that you could read over and over and over again, that rents are going up exponentially. So she's a first-time home buyer, pre-approved, but scared to death to buy in this market. What going from intracoastal apartment in Delray, Florida to is she planning on moving to Orlando? What is her goals? JR, do me a favor. Go ahead and you can go on my website. It's KristinaSmallhorn.com and fill out a referral form. Make sure you put your phone number there and I'll give you a call and we'll talk a little bit further. I know a bunch of people in Florida because I lived there for 10 years. That's where I met my main squeeze, Eddie. And I'll get
your
you set
hot
up.
husband, right?
Yeah, my hot husband, my main squeeze. And then I'll set you up with a real estate agent that I know in that area that can help your daughter out if she doesn't have one already. Oh, Eddie's got an article he'd like to show. Oh, look, that's me. That's me.
Look at that. So professional.
Yeah. So
that website.
Thank you. So it says you can book a call with me and then you hit the book the call button and then it will say, do you want to looking for a referral or request a collaboration? You just hit the looking for a referral button. I didn't misspell referral. They did. That one's spelled right. There we go. So just fill that out and I'll help you out. All right, Eduardo, let's see. Eddie, give me another message then. Oh, okay, Eddie. Yeah, go ahead and put that article up, Edward. Or you have another question you want to put up? Whatever you want to do. Eddie's running the show. I'm just hosting it. He's running the show.
Hey, that's all right. The man behind the scene. We've all seen Wizard of Oz, right?
Yep. Will the housing market finally crash in 2020? Yahoo News is the epitome of housing crash headlines. They are the epitome.
I was just thinking that same thing. I was like, I think I've seen that back in like 2018, 2019.
Well, and they take the same article and they just write a new headline. It's the exact same article. All right, moving into the home stretch of 2021, Fannie Mae predicts that home prices will rise by just 7.9% between the fourth quarter this year and the same time next year at the end of 2022, just being a subjective term. Although the annual growth is 8%, might seem trivial in light of 2021's historical gains, 7.9 is nearly double the average historic rate growth since 1987, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. Home prices have grown on the average of 4.1 per year. Yeah, that is still really high. So when everybody says there's a cooling off, I'm like, a cooling off in comparison to what, last year? Well, we're not going to see prices like that and jump like that. That was just bizarre. You know, the only time that I ever saw it like that was right before the housing crash the last time. But that was, those home prices were going up because of kooky like, what do they call it? Interest only loans? They were terrible. People got way in over their head. I had a friend who she should have never gotten a loan for as much as she did. When she told me I got a loan for $350,000, I'm like,
oh yeah.
How?
I've heard that story where it's like a pizza delivery guy would go in and get a loan for $1 million home. It's like and then not only that, but then here's the other thing. The guy who would give the loan knew the buddy appraiser who would then appraise the home at that value. And so the loan would go through.
Well, and that's the other,
where a lot of things happen.
And the appraisal company's gotten a lot of trouble for that. And because of those kinds of things, like the bank can't have their own appraiser anymore. They have to go through a bucket of appraisers and they filter them through. They have to go, A, B, C, D, and they go to the next appraiser down the list. So there's no under the table kind of appraisals. That's for sure. And, appraisers are gun shy from what happened in 2007 too, especially the older ones are like, we are not overappraising these houses if, no way. And a lot of people that, they would get the appraisal in and they'd find out the appraisal was short, they'd still pay cash. A lot of people have paid cash
Oh,
over the appraised value in this market, which is total insanity to me. CC Moon, $1.99 super chat says, do you think the mortgage rate will increase to 5.5 or 6% in 2022? I don't think it's off the table.
yeah.
I would say 5% more than 6,
I could see 4.99 easily.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I could see it by the end of 2022. That I don't think that's going to be unheard of. And then your prices will go down. People will say, "Oh, finally the prices are going down." I'm like, "Well, you're paying more in a mortgage. You're still paying the same
Yeah.
amount,
Gosh, like my lender makes a really nice flyer for me during my open houses and things like that, where he does that comparison where he shows like, the house, this home price is this high and this one's lower. That's fine. But because the rate is lower here versus this one, you're going to be paying more per month than this. And I think that's what a lot of people, I think the original article that you put up there that we discussed, what you pay per month is really what you should consider with your home buyers. Like, I teach a home buying class to people because that's what people need to know is understand, like, what can you afford to what you're paying? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, $160 more a month because of rising interest rates is a lot of money, or
Yeah.
even rising home costs. And the people I really like my heart bleeds for them, the people that have, they have retired. They're at the retirement age. They
Mm-hmm.
really aren't in the position to work a job anymore, and they have saved and they have saved and they have saved. And now they can't, they're priced out of their own housing market. Like, even if they were to sell their house to move somewhere else, they
Yeah.
couldn't afford to move. So now you'll see there's plenty of articles that are out there that are saying retirees are retiring in place, mostly because they have nowhere to go. There's
Right.
nowhere for them to go. And that's sad. That is very sad that we've
What do
gotten
you
to
think
this
of
point.
reverse mortgages?
I don't know enough about them to give my personal opinion about them. Any comments on Redfin's predictions of 3% appreciation in 2022? I think that is conservative, to tell you the truth. I think we're going to see a 6% appreciation in 2022, but I'm not an economist. I'm just a real estate agent. And when they had said that it was going to be only 13% and then it reached to 16%, I was like, told you so. I think sometimes when economists are looking at numbers on paper, but we're dealing with people and people's emotions and how they reflect on the housing market as a whole. We can tell that when there's a shift by the moment we have gone to sleep and wake up the next morning, something feels different in the housing market. You can tell as soon as you open up the MLS, there's like, ooh, this feels different. And then sure enough, like 2 weeks later, there is a shift. You were right. You're feeling, your gut is telling you the right thing. That comes with time. That comes with time. So the 6% will also depend on if interest rates go up to that 5%. We'll see. Heidi Davis says, question. Hi, Kristina. My husband and I are looking for land to build in a farm in Massachusetts. Oh, that is my hometown, Massachusetts, outside in Plymouth. Any advice or pitfalls? I have actually lots of videos about buying land, but I also have a book. Let me see. Yep, this is it. So I want you to go and buy this book. And this is not endorsed. I don't get any credit for this specific book whatsoever, but a friend of mine wrote this book and it says 10 things you need to know about buying land. It's by Cheryl Sane. This is like your buying land Bible. This is a very, very good book, and it will tell you all the pitfalls, certain kinds of surveys you're going to need, what kinds of corners of the property you need to have done. You got to make sure that, it tells you everything. Just go on Amazon, buy this book. It's by Cheryl Sane. And like I said, I don't get any props or anything for it, but she is a good friend of mine, and this is an excellent book. I use this as reference all the time, and whenever my clients are thinking about buying land, this is the book I give them. I drop it off at their front door. I'm like, I have a gift for you. You need to read this before you buy a piece of dirt. So I don't know if you've read that book.
I'm not. It's definitely going to be my to-do list. Like
she's a real estate agent too. It's a good book. Go get it. 10 things you need to know about land. It's on Amazon. And she's been in, she's been in a couple of my videos too, because she's really good on it. Eddie's going to throw up another question here. This kid, haven't seen you in a while. Do you think the commercial real estate market tanking after COVID is driving hedge groups to homes RE? So I would have thought that probably 9-10 months ago. But when if you go back to some of my older videos, I came across an article that was probably a year or two earlier, talking about how some of these companies, where it would look like ABC rental units, then they would find out that ABC rental units was owned by a big corporation in the area, and they were buying all the affordable houses around their factory so they could rent it to their own employees. And I was like, ooh, this is insidious. I put that video out and people are like, you're out of your mind. Fast forward about 6 months, 7 months later, then it was like all these hedge funds are making these real estate companies just to buy up properties so they can rent them out. I'm like, I said this. One of the best things for me to do when I really want to find some fun information, it's not on page 1, 2, or 3. It's like page 6 of Google, and you'll find this like weird article, and you're like, who's this and why are they? I'm like, this was a great article. I love showing all that kind of stuff, because I don't believe that corporations are trying to help people in any way, shape, or form. If anything, they're just trying to make more money. Greed runs the United States currently, and it's getting stronger and stronger every day. That's my personal opinion. What do you think, Landon?
I could see that. I could see that side of it, because as they say, money makes the world go around, right? But people need a good place to live. They need a good house to come home to. And unfortunately, like just today, I was dealing with a client who was dealing with that situation where they pretty much said, I've got no place to go after this. Like, I've got nowhere else to go. And he's kind of right. Like, all the affordable housing has been gobbled up. Good luck finding any house for sale that's decent for under $100,000.
That would be impossible here.
Oh yeah. It's like, what's impossible here in Indiana. Like, I don't care if you go way out in the sticks. Like, it's really hard to find a very nice house for under $100,000. Like, it's just incredible. And now that number is being moved even higher to almost $200,000. Like that. Is it down like that down there in Louisiana?
If you have a house that's listed at $170,000, you're going to have a line out the door of people wanting to take a look at it. And most likely it's going to need a lot of work, a lot of elbow grease. And some investment company is going to go ahead and, if that's the case, and purchase it and do all the elbow grease and put it back on the market for a lot higher amount,
The big thing we're seeing here in Indianapolis in this market area is a lot of like flipping. Like, there's a lot of a historical area of Indianapolis that
we can't get any flips,
you can't buy a house and flip it.
No, you can. It's just that there isn't as many homes to flip. They're just not available. There isn't enough houses on the market to flip. It just doesn't happen. And the wholesalers,
is there more land to buy than that, or?
Well, the wholesalers come in and they grab the houses ahead of time, and then they sell them out. But there's just isn't as many houses. We don't have in years past. We've had a lot of flipped homes that had gone on the market, especially after floods and everything else. But this past 2 years, I have not seen as many flipped homes entering the market, because there just weren't available. There just wasn't enough supply of homes for home flippers to purchase houses. I'm not saying they're not there. There just isn't as many as they have been in years past. Eddie's going to go ahead and put up another question here. Kristina, can you move to the left a little bit? The camera is shining the light. Sorry. Eddie's giving me a little message. I'm sorry. Let me move the camera. I'm going to move the camera. Oops. Well, is that better? Is that better? Okay. Eddie says it's better. CC Moon says, with a 199 super chat, I wonder if inflation affects the U.S. birth rate. You know what, CC? This is interesting.
That's a good question.
That is an interesting question, because there was an article that says that that millennials are not wanting to have children. Like it's more common for people not to want to have kids, because they're just like, it's just costs too much. Like I can barely afford myself. Why do I want to bring another person in the world to be in the cog in the machine? If I can't afford to to feed myself, why would I put that on a kid? That doesn't seem very fair. And the other thing is that I actually point this out in a video that's coming up. My parents said, "Oh, I was driving through this house with all these little homes," and she goes, "You know, I never saw one kid playing outside." And I'm like, "Mom, because the people that could afford those houses aren't the kids not the people that have little kids that can play outside. Those houses. Do you know how much those cost? You know, like that. Those people have high-end jobs and most likely don't have kids. You know, you don't see as many kids in those what you call starter home neighborhoods, because they're no longer starter homes. They're freaking expensive."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, I never looked at it that way." It says, this Eddie, can you squeeze it up just a scotch, because my 40-year-old eyes can't this analysis, oh, whoa, there he goes. Whoa. This analysis investigates the relationship between population growth and inflation. A panel models demonstrate a strong association between population growth and inflation in both cross-country data and across the sample of the U.S. metro areas. The metro area results in a high, robust, including an instrumental variable approach, and a long-run models using identical changes of their 90 years data. This reads like stereo instructions. The metro area analysis suggests that the housing market is a main mechanism through which population growth affects inflation, likely because of the regulatory and physical constraints that keep land and housing relatively inelastic in many places. Inelastic? Is that is right? I probably said that wrong. You can roast me in the comments if I said it wrong. There's a suggestive evidence that the relationship between population growth and inflation is not nonlinear, with the population declines having a strong effect on that than the population growth. This is consistent with relatively permanent housing stock that declines only slowly in response to the declining population. Overall, these results suggest that slowing population growth can be a headwind for inflation and help explain why inflation has remained stubbornly weak in some places. Well, we're about to see the effects of that really soon. They can really use that data now when we're heading into more inflation. That was the most boring, Eddie, I have to tell you, that article read terrible. Wherever that came from was like
well, it said abstract. There's probably a scientific news article paper, research paper.
Yeah, that was not a fun read.
Scholarly.
Data needs to be more entertaining for Kristina to want to read it.
Google Scholar, right? Google Scholar.
I like entertaining reading. Andre says, have you heard or seen lenders making tougher lending requirements from earlier this year? Actually, Audrey, listen, they're actually going to make it easier. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and all of them have met with the housing authority, and they're going to be loosening some mortgage constraints when it came to borrowing money from family members, some other requirements. And even for people that are thinking about buying a manufactured home, like what some people would call a mobile home on a piece of land, they've actually reduced the restrictions on there. They used to have to follow 162 different documents in order to buy a manufactured home. That's why a lot of lenders don't do that. They're eliminating those documents, so it makes it easier for people to purchase a manufactured home that's attached to a piece of land. So some of the requirements were put into place as a knee-jerk reaction to the housing market. The 2008, when the housing market was under-regulated. So then, of course, they over-regulated it. So now they're trying to meet in the middle and loosen up some of those requirements so people can find a more affordable housing option in using packages like your FHA loans for things like manufactured homes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. That's what my lenders are saying. The same thing too. Things are getting a little bit laxed, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Eddie getting pull up. Oh, here, Eddie wants to show me something else. Oh, mortgage requirements are loosening. There's some good news for home buyers. It's finally getting easier to get a mortgage loan. After tightening their lending standards during the pandemic, it seems mortgage lenders are starting to loosen up the reins a bit. In fact, according to Mortgage Bankers Association, mortgages were about 2.2% easier to come by in April than in March. And some types of and on some types of loans, mortgage availability was up 12.6%. And here's some of the changes that home buyers and refinancers have done. But I will say this: how did they come up with this? Say that it was 2.2% easier to come by. How did they come up with that specific? Did they ask people? They're like, in relation to you tried to get a loan, 6 months ago, how much more was it easier? Well, I think about a 2.2%. Okay, we'll write that down.
Out of 100 people, how many said this, right? Family Feud, right?
Yeah.
We surveyed 100 people out there in the audience.
I love Family Feud. I miss that.
It's still on.
And I know, but
isn't Steve Harvey the host of that now?
Yeah. I haven't seen it since I was little. That was one of those things that you would, you're eating your Kraft macaroni and cheese and you're watching it with your parents, with whatever. All right, Eddie, go ahead and put up another question for us. Okay. Triathlete New York says, question, I sold my big house in 2019. So what about the tiny house market? Will the process where is a place to purchase in Florida? Where's the best place to purchase in Florida? Well, I know that like if you're going to go do the Airbnb type of thing and you're going to buy tiny houses and put them like near Key West, that would be something to consider. But just know that you're going to have to be contending with environmental issues when it comes to like hurricanes and stuff like that. But there's all sorts of places. You won't be able to do tiny houses like in Boca, but you could do some closer to like the Key West area. And if you're looking for a real estate agent around that area, you can just reach out to me on my website. I will say too that Orlando has a booming Airbnb market as well. So there's something to consider. When you're going to do these, I always say the tiny homes are really good at places that have like a lot of people that come through for a short period of time. Like if you go to like near a national park, like around Utah, they have tons of these Airbnbs everywhere. Or a place like the beach, the people vacation, they're going to spend a little bit of time there. But then of course, then you have Orlando, which has, all the Disneys and all the theme parks and everything else. And they even have iDrive. So, that's something to consider. And there's lots of pieces of land just outside Orlando, like in the, like not Ascension. I was thinking the wrong Lake County area that you could possibly think about putting Airbnbs and tiny homes in.
We're seeing a lot more Airbnbs here in Indianapolis than I thought.
Really? Why?
I was surprised. Well, for one, we have the Indy 500 is here every year. It's a big tourist event. But then we have a lot of events throughout the year. So for example, like the NCAA football championship here, this for ESPN, that's going to be here this year. That's like the Super Bowl for this upcoming year. We do have like Comic-Con comes here every year. And actually, matter of fact, for like downtown area for like a getaway trip, Indianapolis is really cheap to fly to from like a lot of one-way stops, but there's a lot of fun things to do in the summertime. Like we have a canal, we've got like minor league baseball, a lot of fun restaurants like St. Elmo's Steakhouse, one of the world famous steakhouses that's here. I mean, there's a lot. And I was surprised. I was like, really? People would like rent here in Indianapolis? But yeah, there are a lot of Airbnbs.
World famous? I've never heard of St.
Oh, you've never heard of St. Elmo's?
St. Elmo's. I mean, maybe I'm crazy. I've never heard of St. Elmo's Steakhouse. Gosh. Maybe it's world famous in Indiana.
Have Eddie pull that up. World famous. St. Elmo's Steakhouse. Well, here's why I know that is every time you watch like Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football, you hear the announcers like Bob or Frank Gifford or someone say, yeah, Indianapolis and St. Elmo's cocktail sauce. They have this shrimp cocktail sauce that's like really spicy. It's to die for.
I'll take your word on that. If I'm going
to come to Indy you come to Indy sometime, we'll go there.
When I think Indiana, I don't think seafood.
I know, it's really weird, huh?
I wouldn't go to Indiana for seafood.
Yeah, I wouldn't come here for seafood, but that shrimp cocktail sauce I would.
All
See,
right.
there it is.
There
St.
it
Elmo's.
is. Yeah, well, it's very pretty. Very nice. I would eat a steak there, but I don't know if I would try their cocktail sauce shrimp.
You definitely
I
should
can't
try
stop
it
laughing,
now.
but-
You can go buy it at Kroger or something. Do you guys have Kroger down there?
We don't have Kroger. We don't have Publix
Okay.
either.
Oh, okay.
I did see a $20 super chat come in from
Oh.
Ian of Austin, who is a realtor. In both of your opinions, how would you define affordable housing? Monthly disposable income, lifestyle, time of payoff, maintenance, down payments, requirements, etc. What do
All
you
of it.
consider affordable housing option?
Depends on
Landon?
your client.
Right. Right.
I think it all depends on what your client wants. You have to really listen to what they want. I mean, every client's a little bit different. Some people can, like at the end of the day, some people can afford more house, some people can afford less. So I don't know really how to answer that question more effectively as far as what would you consider affordable housing. I would probably, if I was going to sit down with a buyer client, I'd say, what are you comfortable with month to month? Like, what does that look like? I'm going to guess most people who are going to buy a home have either rented before or have thought about that question. If they haven't, they should talk to a lender, a qualified lender, to sit down and have that conversation of like, what do you think you can afford? Like, that's the number one question I ask everyone who's looking to buy a home. Like, what do you think you can afford? Like, how much are you bringing in for income wise? And what should that look like? Like, I've heard the number should be like 30% of your income. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I'm sure my brain was thinking about something completely different because I was all I wanted to say this. I think to determine if an area is declining for affordable housing options is when you see people like school teachers and firemen and police officers who can no longer afford houses in your area. People that would have normally in any other time in history would have easily been able to qualify for a loan, but the home prices have gotten so astronomical that their income no longer covers the fact that there's any affordable houses in that area. That's a real problem. If school teachers and the people that take the school teachers, the police officers, and the firefighters that hold up a community can't afford a house in that specific area, that's an affordability crisis. And we have that throughout the United States. It isn't just California. It isn't just Colorado. It's little small towns like here, right outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And that's, I don't know. That's what my brain was thinking. I know that you went on a completely different place.
I went different.
My ADD brain was like, I have to say this because this is a problem. This is a real problem in the United States. Go ahead, Eddie. Triathlete New York says, question, Kristina, can I need to buy a house in tiny homes, a tiny house to live in, and that was my goal. But I work in Tampa. I know some Tampa real estate agents. These 10 tiny home houses in Florida Village are available to buy under $8,500, and as demand grows, $85,000. $85,000 as demand grows for efficient living away from dense major cities. $85,000 for a tiny home. Like, what are we talking about? What size are we talking about? How tiny is this tiny home? This article was written in 2020. So that was $85,000 in 2020. Can you imagine how much they are? There's probably 120,000 probably now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. So now we're going to put school teachers and firefighters and police officers that normally could have afforded a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house into tiny homes and sell those houses to them for that amount of money that they can afford with their income. That is insanity.
Hey, you're talking to a former teacher. I was a public school teacher in Indiana before as a realtor. So I definitely can relate to what you're saying as far as that.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? And then you have to buy your own school supplies for your kids and everything. It's crazy.
Yeah. And don't get me started on childcare. The cost of that is, I mean, it's a lot of money for all that.
Eddie, you said something? Oh yeah. and, and he's like the little guy in the background. He's like, you have him contact you. I've said my website several times. If you want to speak to me a little bit further about finding some tiny houses there in Tampa, go ahead and contact me. My website is KristinaSmallhorn.com with a Kristina. All right, Eddie, you can put up the next question. LB Moore says, question, you said companies have bought homes in other countries to raise the price of a starter homes, and that's been done before. What are the long-term side effects of companies buying starters? What are the side effects? We're seeing the side effects. There isn't affordable housing options for people like that are like your mailman 15, 20 years ago could buy a house. Your mailman today can only rent an apartment or a small house. They can no longer afford a mortgage. What do you think some of the long-term side effects are, Landon?
Exactly what you're saying there. Like, I'll give you a really good case example here in the United States. My brother, who worked for Microsoft out east in Seattle, his house was like a tri-level 1970 house that was right next to a freeway. It's all they could find. They paid $750,000 for that house.
Ew.
That's what that's what they sold it for at the end. I think it was like a little over 2,000 square feet, right? So now they move here to Indiana, in an area called Carmel, Indiana, which is more higher end. They get like this 4,000 plus square feet with a basement and it's the bee's knees. It's a really nice for $750,000. Same exact like price point, but it's like Seattle, Carmel, like different region of the world. It's not just across the country. It's happening right here in the United States.
Well, that's what happened in California, and that's why a lot of the home prices in places like Austin, Texas, where a lot of Californians had moved to, they sell their house that was 1.9 million. It was like a three bedroom little bungalow, and then they buy a little McMansion in Austin, Texas, and they're like, they feel like they won the lottery, you know. Yeah, and then that happened in Wyoming and Montana and all sorts of places around Colorado. There's been an exodus of people and corporations out of California. You would think that would have caused the housing market in California to like at least flatten, but it has not. There's a lot of people still waiting in the wings to purchase a home in California. California isn't going anywhere. Their housing market isn't going to tank anytime soon.
No, they got the weather. You know what I mean? They've got the stuff out there that, flat Indiana and places like this don't.
I've actually never been to Indiana. I've driven through it. I don't remember it. I was very young. Yeah. Question, do you do a final walkthrough, doing a final walkthrough tomorrow morning, and then we're closed in the afternoon. Any suggestions on the walkthrough? I have some suggestions, but you can go first, Landon.
Make sure everything's that was on the BLC that's there. If they said the appliances were going to be there, make sure that those appliances were going to be there. I've had that happen where I had another realtor, we were doing a closing, and I said, like, the fridge was supposed to stay, and somebody was taking the fridge, and she like literally parked her car into this person so they wouldn't steal the fridge. Like, those are just the things I would recommend. Make sure that everything that you wrote in that contract is what's supposed to be there.
I always do this thing. We walk in the house and we flip on every single light in the house to make sure it's operational. Good idea. Then we start going through the inspection report of the things that they were required to fix in that report. And we start checking to make sure that those were repaired, even if it came with receipts saying that it was repaired. Then we go to the air conditioning to make sure it is cooling. And then we do turn on the heat just for a few seconds, just to make sure it does start. When you turn on the heat, it smells, it stinks. So as soon as that turns on, we start feeling that it's warm. Then we flip back the air conditioning back to where it was. And then the last thing we do is to make sure that they have left the garage door openers, and to make sure that the garage door opener is available to open up the door, So yeah, that's what I would do on your final walkthrough. But that is the number one thing, is like, make sure that everything that was requested on that inspection request that they said they were going to repair, to go back through that house when you're doing your walkthrough and check to make sure that those repairs were actually done.
Well, right now, just ancillary note here. A lot of those inspection stuff are getting waived. So people aren't really doing inspections because they want the house so badly. They know, hey, I've got to get this house. We want to get 10 other offers. And so we had to waive inspection type thing. So it's like what you're describing is what it was like 3 years ago when you were buying a home, right?
Right. But
So
some
it's changed.
people are still being able to get some stuff done during inspection reports. So it's always important to know that that's something they should be doing. Another thing that I've seen is, which shocked me to death, was during the inspection, they went ahead and had an inspection, but weren't going to ask the sellers to fix anything.
So buy it as is.
Buying it as is, but they did ask if they could fix some things before the closing date. So they did have some roof repair done, and they did have some windows replaced prior to closing, but that was on the expense of the buyers, whether it closed or not. So, I was kind of shocked about that. And the sellers were like, if it's on their dime, I don't give a poop. Go ahead and do it. So they did it. And it did close. It did close. Richard Riviera says, question, California is expensive. What do I do?
Move?
Well, no. I mean, that's the simple answer.
Yeah.
I would say, Richard, if you're genuinely interested to purchase a house, I would meet with a local lender in your specific area, have them break down your expenses, see if what you do qualify for a home loan, see if there's any specific programs, because each state has like government grants and bonds and all sorts of things that could possibly get you into a home for like little to no money down that you didn't even realize. And sometimes they'll even help you with that down payment if you meet certain requirements. If you happen to be a veteran, some areas don't even make you pay property taxes. So just go meet with a lender, see what is available to you, and then maybe you'll be able to purchase a house sooner than you thought. So
I like how you use that word there, local.
Right, local lenders.
It's so important to work with that local person versus like a nationwide lender. Like, I don't want to bash any big name companies, but the local person will know those specific examples of lending things. So, for example, like here in Marion County of Indianapolis, Indiana, there's a certain program where they will help you with closing costs. But in return, they put like a 3-year lien on your house. But if you know you're going to be at that house for 3, 4, 5 years, but it helps with your closing costs right at that moment, it could be a good thing for you. I literally had that happen with one of my first-time home buyers because they were in the situation where they're like, hey, we just need this extra money for like if repairs happen, or I need to do this and do that. Like, we just need that extra liquid cash in our pocket. And I would have never known that unless they worked with a local lender. So I agree completely with what you're saying. Talk to somebody local and they'll be able to help you out.
Yeah. I think it's always better to be able to go to somebody's office when you do have a problem, when you're having a breakdown of like, this is too much, that you could go in, open the door and talk to the person that's putting your loan together. I want my clients to be able to do that. And I think most people want to do that. They want to be able to have a conversation with the person across the desk, because this is the most important decision you're making. Who wants to do it with somebody you've never met over the telephone? And the thing is, here, even with the pandemonium, coronavirus, all this stuff happened, lenders here like got on Zoom calls and had conversations where they could speak to my clients, right? So they could have those conversations like they always did. It wasn't the same, no, but at least they were able to see that person face to face and they could contact them. So that's just something to think about when you're purchasing a house. I always say go local, support your local businesses. Eddie, next question. Eddie's the producer in the background, husband extraordinaire. Oh, thank you, Lord Humongous. Real estate agents are like actors in Hollywood, a dime a dozen. Yeah, thank you for your kind words. So glad for you to stop by and leave such nice comments. So funny. This is the kind of stuff that makes me laugh.
Keep tuning in. Thank you.
Go ahead, Eddie. Triathlete New York says, question, I live in a house for 17 years and sold it, which is too big. Eddie, we answered this question. Where would you recommend building a tiny house? I would, if you're thinking about a tiny house community, I would look in Missouri and along the South Carolina, near the North Carolina, South Carolina beaches. They have some open.
Charleston. It's a great area.
I don't know if Charleston's going to allow Airbnbs though. There have been a lot there's been a lot of, this is one of those things too. This is why it's important to work with a local real estate agent that is a dime a dozen, like Lord Humongous said.
Yeah.
The thing is that you're going to need to know if tiny homes are going to be allowed for Airbnbs in a local area. Here in New Orleans, you cannot have an Airbnb. You can't build a new Airbnb. They have put a cap on it because the hotel industry said, no, this is causing a problem for us. So they cut that right off at the knees. So be very savvy if you're going to decide to do a whole community, and work with a local investor real estate agent. Those real estate agents are going to be different than your typical real estate agents that work with single family dwellings. Work with a real estate agent that understands investment properties. Just FYI. Bellamix says, can you ask for the city to put a moratorium on investor ownership when you see it in becoming unable for families to own affordable housing now up to $250,000? You can always go to your local zoning and planning meetings and you can request anything. We had a new construction moratorium here in my little area because they were building so many new subdivisions and the roads are literally crumbling into the ditches. So, and we've had a problem recently with, because we live in South Louisiana, and some of them have not been building the right kind of retention ponds. So neighborhoods that have never flooded, they build this new neighborhood. Now these older neighborhoods are starting to flood. And that's a real problem because they didn't address the infrastructure properly. So yeah, if you can prove it and show it to your elected officials on why there should be a moratorium on this in your specific area, start being the loud person. You know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. What do you say, Landon?
I was just going to say that's one of my favorite phrases. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Like it's always advocate. Like there's a reason why you have local elected officials. And if you call them and you reach out to them, absolutely, your voice should be heard.
And get yourself on the news. Nothing burns a real local official more than anything is to be put in the news in a negative light. So if they're giving you the cold shoulder, like call your local news station and be like, I got this email and it was not addressing our problem. Should we have a real problem in our area of investors taking away homes from our, people that are trying to get ahead in the world? Like you paint that story for a local news station, they'll be all over it. They'll be on it like white on rice, they hate being in the news. So just FYI. Donette says, question, if I sell my house in California, how long can I sit on the proceeds or purchase somewhere else? Thank you. Do you have capital gains on that? I mean, I wouldn't know. I have to know your, how much you're getting back and everything else.
Right.
So, and if I wouldn't sit and I'm going to tell you this, I would not sit on my equity that I had on a house. I wouldn't sit on that. I mean, it's not going to do anything in a bank right now. Not nothing. I wouldn't put it in a savings account. That's for sure.
Yeah. Make your money work for you.
Yeah. Sure. If it was me, if I had equity, I would buy duplexes and I would live in one of those duplexes.
Right.
We don't build them here, but I wish if we did, I would have at least four duplexes. Tony Menina says, question, why homes, condo prices in New York is the same as before COVID? Do you have an opinion about this? I do actually, because I talked to people.
I don't know. I've never been to New York, so I have no opinion of it.
Okay.
I would never guess that.
Okay, so the pandemic starts. The people are like getting out of the city, right?
Sure.
All of a sudden, homes are like nobody wants to touch apartments. My brother lives in the city of New York, and he's like, it's unbelievable how many people are like packing up and going out of the city. They're getting out because they can work from home and they don't have to work in the city anymore. A bunch of people leave. So there was a portion of the time that the housing market looked a little bleak in New York City because people were like, where's everybody going? Where are they all going? Once things started ramping back up, they started opening the subway systems again. And, people were out and about. The apartments started filling back up again. Housing prices started going up exponentially. New York is its own microcosm of a real estate market. What's happening across the United States is not indicative of what's happening in New York.
I can
And
see that.
New York is going to be there long before and after. I cannot see home prices tanking in New York City anytime soon. Anytime
No,
soon.
no, because if they do, people will start buying them because it's New York City.
Yep. Yep. Question. If these remote worker jobs get outsourced overseas for cheaper labor, what do you think will happen to the housing market? Well, this is a question that's been happening since would they have that this was during Clinton, and it was like the thing that all the jobs were
Everything was be
going.
sent to Mexico.
Yeah, that was getting send them the NAFTA. Was it NAFTA? Is that correct? NAFTA? I think that was what it was. And
Okay.
everybody was losing their minds saying this was
Mm-hmm.
going, but all these things are insidious, right? So it doesn't affect you right away. And then by the time it's out of your brain, like, oh, well, that really wasn't that big of a problem because you're seeing it 4 or 5 years later. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, that wasn't so bad. And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, you see the effects of it because all these small areas that used to make the little components that go into your calculator are now closed. And those towns that were kind of just normal, regular towns
Mm-hmm.
are suffering. Then you have these big corporations like, Target and Walmart that close down all your local businesses. The
Mm-hmm.
shift of the landscape in the United States has changed exponentially since the 80s. And anytime you see a bunch of low paying jobs going overseas, you will never see the effects right away. It takes
No.
a while. And once they do, it's too late to turn back the clock. We need more incentives for big businesses to be able to bring their factories back to the United States.
Yep.
And then we have to pay the American worker enough because kids these days are not going to work for what they were working for before. They literally have said, you know what? I will sit here and knit socks for dogs and sell them on the internet before I go back and work for an
Right.
employer that's not willing to pay me enough. I would rather eat McDonald's every single day than have to deal with a boss that treats me like garbage. So they're going to have to think about the American worker and if they want more people to come back and more corporations to come back, they're going to have to give them more incentives to come back. So yes.
that story you were saying about the little small town, there's a city here in Indiana called Muncie, Indiana. It's actually where Ball State is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That city was just fantastic, really booming because they had a company called Borg Warner. Borg Warner used to make parts and everything else for like vehicles. Same thing happened. Like Muncie was a huge city here in the 50s and 60s. Actually, I don't know if you've seen the movie Hoosiers.
Yeah.
Have you seen that basketball? Okay.
Yeah.
So the basketball team back in I'll give you a little ancillary news. Back in the 60s and 50s, the Indiana basketball tournament, like the high school basketball tournament, was one big tournament. Like every team played in a single tournament. And if you were the champion of the state, you were the best basketball team, didn't matter size. Well, Hoosier was this little small town, Milan, Indiana, very small. The team they beat was Muncie Central. Like Muncie Central was the biggest city. Well, I shouldn't say city at the time, but it was booming. Like there was a very blue collar. It has changed completely. Like the city of Muncie, the only thing going on there right now is the universities, Ball State University. The factory shut down. It's exactly what you're saying is we need more incentives to bring factories back here to get families jobs so they can buy a house and so they can afford a house, right?
If that corporation and the company that moves back to the United States doesn't buy up all the affordable housing so they can employ can rent them out to their employees. Arizona is becoming a microchip manufacturing center at just the right time. Yeah, they actually help some people. Phoenix is a worldwide shortage of microchips is turning to the semiconductor industry on its head. As it turns out, that is good news for Arizona and more importantly, the greater Phoenix area. The North Phoenix along the loop of 303 Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company's 5.6 million square foot chip plant is beginning to take shape. Oh, that's wonderful. And I think Ford and I believe it was Ford and GMC or whatever is deciding to make their own microchips as well. And some of the big big American car manufacturers. So I think this is probably one of the things that kind of kicked us in our rear end. Like, we need to start making a lot more stuff here so that when things like this happen again, we're prepared and we don't have to depend on other people to ship it in, and we don't have supply chain issues that we've had before. So Ed Lane says, question: my wife and I are trying to buy our first regular sized home, and I don't know where to start. Help! We're looking for Cambridge, Maryland. All right, listen, I have at least 3 different names you can deal with in Maryland. So just give me just go to my website, KristinaSmallhorn.com, fill out the referral form, and I'll get a hold of you like at the beginning of this week. I will get a hold of you, Ed, and I will connect you with some people I know out in Maryland. I know several real estate agents in that area. Landon, do you have a lot of people that are moving into Indiana from like the South?
Everywhere.
Everywhere?
Like we're getting people from California. It's international. Like, it's really growing. I'm really surprised here in the Indianapolis area. I'll tell you why, because Indianapolis is turning into like this little tech hub. So the governor of the state at the time was Mitch Daniels, and now he's the president of Purdue University. But when he was the governor here, he started to realize that, we would like Indianapolis to become like the micro hub of like Silicon Valley of the Midwest, because you have the East Coast and you have the West Coast. You have both sides, and Indianapolis is kind of like central located. So he started pushing more incentives to bring companies here. There's probably about 50, 60 small companies here in Indianapolis that are, we would call it tech companies around here. So yeah, there is a lot of growth happening here in Indianapolis. And also like Fort Wayne, up where I'm from, that place is growing as well.
There is a danger, and I just thought about this because this happens in Louisiana. There is a danger when you give them too lax of incentives, because Louisiana actually has it's the easiest for a manufacturing corporation to set up a plant here in Louisiana. They pay the least amount in taxes in the country.
Wow.
But we also have the worst infrastructure, and it affects people all over the state, because you have all these people that are driving to get to work, right? All those roads are deteriorating. There isn't enough money to maintain that infrastructure, because the people that bought in to bring the factory, they're like, not my circus, not my monkeys, not going to do it, not going to fix those roads. You're going to have to fix it. So then that puts more pressure on the state to spend more money to get these people to get to work, because the roads are deteriorating. So there is a downside. Just FYI, something to think about. There has to be a balance.
Right. If you have too many cars and things like that, the roads, they obviously deteriorate. I could see exactly what you're saying. But they don't give enough money. They don't pay enough tax dollars. So even the local schools suffer. The school teachers aren't getting paid enough. They have all these influx of people that have moved in, and now you went from kids that were only 20 students per classroom. Now there's 30 students per classroom, and the teachers aren't getting paid anymore. It's a snowball effect that can be easily seen here in the state of Louisiana. So we called that cat herding when I was teaching, like when they would just add more. It's okay. They already have a teacher in there. Just put more kids in there instead of a 20, 30. Yeah. I had a class one time where I had 60 kids in it.
Yeah. RH, do you know how to do this? Eddie, can you set up an auto delete moderator bot? You know what, RH, I'm going to do this because you're always on my stream. If you would like to be a moderator for my channel, just let me know, email me, and I will set you up as a moderator for the channel. And then you can moderate the chat when we have live streams.
I just got a job like that. I love it.
Yeah, if he wants to. The Spatula City question: is the housing trend for the Rust Belt areas like Indiana, Ohio? I hear that people from those areas are migrating to the Sun Belt areas. Is that true? Does this affect prices? This is a question for you. I cannot answer this.
So, like, I have a set of clients right now that are selling their house in Indianapolis. Shout out to Charles and Charles. They're going to be moving down to Orlando area. So there's your example of moving from the Rust Belt to here. At the same time, I had a phone call from another agent saying, hey, I have clients moving from Atlanta to here. So I just think it's it's yin and yang. Like people are going in and out all the time.
Shifting.
Yeah, it's just like some people don't like where they're at and they want to move to a new spot.
I've noticed that a lot more people that are younger are trying to find jobs where they can live wherever. And there is, I'm not going to say a huge amount, but there is a section of younger people that are like, I don't care. And they have turned in school buses, and then they're like, I can do my job anywhere. You know, I'm just sitting in the middle of the Salt Lake City right now. Went on a morning hike, and now I'm answering a bunch of emails for my tech job while I travel in a van across the United States. There's people that do it. If I was young, I think that would be kind of cool to say that I did something like that. I don't know.
You
I
know,
mean, obviously I can do that now, but that'd be awesome.
With more people working from home, real estate question for you. What do you think they're going to do with all those old offices that are sitting empty right now? What do you first forecast for those?
Well, my hope, and I've said this several times, especially like places like old hotels, old shopping malls that are just sitting there vacant, collecting. I would love them to turn them into affordable housing options where they could do FHA compliant condominiums and then rezone. And even the Biden administration even said that they're going to start rezoning some areas that were considered commercial into residential. And I think that could be the best plan to get some of these commercial buildings back to being income producing properties. If you turn those into like a condominium, it'd be so easy. Like I've always said, if you took a shopping mall, and this would be so cool, right? So you can make that into affordable housing options for seniors, right? And that the top layer would be where the seniors live, right? And the bottom layer could be a whole medical facility where they could do like a walk-in clinic, x-ray clinic, you know, dermatology. All those shops at the bottom of the mall could be for medical purposes. So the people, the seniors that were living at the top of the, you know, in their little condos could easily go and see their doctors right downstairs. But anybody else that is, you know, anybody else in the regular public could, of course, could see these doctors as well. That would be genius, but nobody asks me.
I love it.
If they'd ask me, but you know, no one asks.
Just what we need is more strip malls. We need more strip malls.
But those malls are sitting there vacant. They're sitting there vacant, and like that's a whole TikTok trend. Like, remember the mall, and they're going through, and they're all sitting there just collecting dust. What a waste of resources.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I agree.
Yep. All right, we got another question coming up. Hey, everybody, can you not do your political rants in my live chats, please? Really, Kristina says no. Landon, on that note, I want to say, Muncie says, will there be a crash? Many have taken equity out of their house and not realizing they owe it back. I can't speak on people taking out the equity in their houses. I mean, honest to God, I haven't seen equity loans. A lot of people couldn't even get, because I was suggesting HELOCs, you know, so people could access their equity in their houses, and the banks they cut off equity loans, HELOCs. They cut them off at the beginning, mid pandemic. They had cut off the ability to get HELOCs. They've opened that back up again. But anytime, there's always a risk of people taking out too much equity in their house and overspending. You can't control that. I don't know when that would affect the housing market. Landon, is there any comments that you would like to leave with today before we say goodbye?
I just really want to say thanks for bringing me on here. I had a lot of fun. This was a good chatting with you. Like, it's always good to get outside perspective beyond my Indiana realm.
Bubble.
Yeah, bubble. There you go.
Landon is on all sorts of social media sites, and Eddie's going to be pulling those up for you right now. So if you have any questions about the Indiana housing market and you want to get to know Mr. Landon a little bit more, there he is on the old Facebook. He's also on the old LinkedIn as well. Look, is that you?
Yeah, that's a picture of me. So I'm a diehard Florida State Seminole fan. And
my gosh.
Our rivalry game was like last weekend. We lost to the Florida Gators, but the little post there says, "No bandwagon fan, proud of my Seminoles." So yeah, that's a picture of me.
I think
without my Movember stash.
I think I like you without the stash.
Yeah, it'll be gone after this week, so my wife will appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I'm with the missus. Lose the stash.
I walk around the house and she's like, "Where's Dale at? Where's Dale?"
Yeah, she's named your mustache. It really
she's
needs
like,
to go.
"Where's Dale?" Yeah.
But he's also on LinkedIn as well. And what are you on Instagram?
LinkedIn, Instagram. You can find me like Real Estate Landon. That's where it is on my name on there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I use LinkedIn. So
yeah. Well, everybody, I hope you have a fantastic week. If you have any questions after the stream is over, just put them in the chat. If you have any specific questions for Landon, I'll have him check back on this video as well once it's published, and he will answer any questions about Indiana. So thank you, Landon, and thank you, everybody, all 500 and I think it was 566 of you that has shown up to this live stream today. Everybody have a fantastic week. Bye bye. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the like button. Eddie, you got to end it. Well, we got to dance too, Linda. You got to dance.
Make it a great day. That's my phrase.
Mine is have a super mega awesome day. That's what I always say. Yeah, that's how I do my answering machine message. It was super mega.